You're listening to Design Between the Lines, the only design and home furnishings podcast where we talk with the movers and shakers, industry innovators, and lifetime legends of the home furnishings industry. It's here that I get a chance to sit and chat with the influencers shaping the industry into what it is today. A veteran of the furniture industry, Dudley Moore Jr. continues a venerable family tradition of excellence right here in High Point, North Carolina. He is a graduate of NC State University and has received an industrial engineering degree in furniture manufacturing and management. Currently, he is the president and co-owner of Otto & Moore Incorporated, a company founded by his father with over 55 years of service in this industry. In addition to his position at Otto & Moore, Dudley has also served as chairman of the American Society of Furniture Designers, vice chairman of the High Point Market Authority Board of Directors, as well as a member of the Board of Directors at the Bean & Stock Furniture Library. Dudley and his firm have been recipients of several prestigious Pinnacle awards covering an expansive and inventive design portfolio. Their work has been utilized by a broad list of esteemed clients such as Universal Furniture, Lane, Bernhardt, and Hooker. Dudley, welcome.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.
You have quite a history in this business. Your family has quite a history, and it's an ongoing history with your children being involved in the company as well. Let me take you back to where your beginnings were and ask you a little bit about what it was like growing up in a family that was really ingrained in the furniture industry.
Yeah, so our story is, I think, interesting, and it's not that dissimilar from a lot of the furniture industry. The way it began, my great-grandfather had a sawmill in near Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and he wanted to find something to do with his lumber, so he built a furniture factory on the banks of the Yadkin River in North Wilkesboro in the early part of the last century, and had a very successful ongoing chair company there until the 70s, the 1970s.
This is dining chairs, I guess, or
dining
wood?
chairs primarily. And so my dad was the son of the third son there. There was no spot for him in the company, and he tried to find something to do in the furniture industry. He was very creative, and so he got into furniture design after graduating from NC State. So he started our company in High Point in 1960 with Walter Otto, and we've been ongoing there ever since. So
Wow.
It's literally in our blood, and my two children are in the firm now, as well as my sister. So we have 5 generations going right there at Otto & Moore.
Now, the chair factory on the Yadkin River, how long did that last? I mean,
So it lasted, I won't have the exact date, it lasted on the Yadkin until the big flood of, I think, 1948, when it was flooded. Kind of a little interesting family story. The factory, my grandfather did not have flood insurance, but very fortunately, the night watchman's hut floated into the factory and set it on fire, and the factory burned down in a flood. He did have fire insurance, and so he was able to rebuild the factory in Ronda, North Carolina, and it operated in Ronda until it was bought by Burlington Industries back in the 60s, and then I think they operated until maybe the mid-70s.
Wow. When
chair production started moving offshore.
Man, what a length of time that was in business. Yeah. Wow. Well, now you mentioned a very famous university that has a wolf pack in its nomenclature. Tell me about how did you arrive at NC State? It was just something you'd always wanted to do because of the family tradition at NC State, or?
Yeah, I mean, really what it was, I knew I wanted to be in the furniture industry. It was in my blood. It had been good to our family. I had seen my dad live it and breathe it, and he had a lifestyle that I thought was attractive. And so, and honestly, back then, the only furniture design school of any consequence was Kendall, which is still operating, but at that time it was a 2-year trade school. And I wasn't confident enough in my abilities to know that I was going to make it as a furniture designer. And I thought, the smart money is to get a broad education in furniture, and then I'll have a future in a variety of different directions depending on where I want to go. So I went to State and took the furniture manufacturing and management program there.
Well, because I think we're not too distant from one another in that program. So I may ask you, who are your professors? Who were your?
Well, so Anko Prock was the head of the department. Yep. A guy named Joe Clark was the upholstery guy.
Was there a fellow named Roy?
Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. Roy Clark,
whose nickname was Short Roy.
Short Roy,
I believe.
Short
Yes.
Roy Clark. He was the upholstery guy, and honestly, I can't remember. Tom Culbreth was a TA there then. It was terrific, and it was it really taught me a lot.
One of the things I can remember about, and I hope we're not insulting him, but I think he knew that was a nickname. Short Roy was when you was not getting your attention in class, he would stand up on a table, and he got it right away. Also, one of the toughest wood identification tests I think I've ever been through. I don't know whether you went through that.
It was
class.
awful.
Yeah, that was a tough. I would love to have all young people go through that, because to identify woods and make yourself acquainted with that is, to me,
it was useful. It was also ridiculously difficult. I mean, as you know, they gave you cross sections of all these different woods. You looked at them under a microscope and tried to, by its cellular structure, identify what the wood was. The only one I always got right was the one where they gave you a baseball bat, because I knew they were made of ash. So that was I always got one question right. But anyway,
well, let me ask you. Up to this point, other than I think your dad for sure, did you have any other influences or mentors in your life up to this, the juncture of your education at the state?
Yeah, well, up until then, so basically, from the time I was 12 years old, I worked in the family firm. Mm-hmm. I was the janitor at 12, and it was good money, $10 for the job, as long as you don't mind cleaning toilets and emptying trash cans. By the time I was 14, I was running blueprints. By the time I was 16, I was spending my summers on the drafting tables doing details. And so really my early mentors were my dad and his partner, Walter Otto, and the office manager, a guy named Buck Atkinson, that really taught me taught me. I arrived at State already knowing how to do blueprints and draw how furniture was built, that kind of thing.
So you were getting really hands-on creative design experience, and at the same time, I guess, management experience, because you were watching. I guess while you were in the office, occasionally clients would come in, or you might be present during presentations, which I think is probably some today may not have that experience when they get out of school and have to jump right into making presentations. We'll talk about this later, because I know you've had experience with that. Your early career, you graduated from State. What happened next?
So I want to go back to mentors just for a moment, because I was also incredibly, incredibly fortunate. I was dating a girl who I married after college, whose dad is Bill Finn, who at the time when I was at State was the president of Stanley Furniture and went on to become president of LAD, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And so he really took me under his wing. He invited me to all kinds of functions at Stanley and in Martinsville, exposing me to upper management people. I mean, he just included me in everything that he did. And so I had this unbelievable education. I got the education at State, mm-hmm. engineering, learning engineering and the arts of problem solving, and also learning how a furniture factory works, what the machines do. And then the summers I was on the drafting table on the creative side with my dad, and on weekends I was in Martinsville hanging out with the presidents and upper management of Stanley Furniture and Bassett and Hooker and all that. So, I mean, nobody was more fortunate than me in terms of just the foundational experience I had with the people. And then once I graduated, I went back and I was just on the drafting table. I was the lowest man on the totem pole at the office, doing the crappiest jobs and honestly some of the easiest jobs, because I wasn't that skilled yet. And so I started out just drafting, and obviously I had ambition to design, but didn't know how I was going to accomplish that.
Well, Dudley, we were talking a little bit about getting out of college and kind of starting your early career, and the great influence that Bill Finn was on you, remarkable gentleman as well, and I do mean gentleman, and a remarkable powerhouse in this industry, connecting a lot of people with a lot of careers. Speaking of careers, how does that? How did you mold yourself? Where did you find yourself out of school? And I know what you were doing at that time you just mentioned earlier, but Where did it go from there? What kind of company did you work for first? What were you designing?
So I was 24, out of school 2 years, and one of our firm's clients was Lee Industries, which Lee was a powerhouse youth furniture manufacturer at the time. They were probably an $80 million company in 1980, and our firm was designed for them among 8 design firms they were using, which were about 6 too many. And my dad and his partner wanted nothing more to do with the firm because it was just too much work with too many different designers competing. So they were going to quit. And I said, well, before you quit, can I take a crack at it? And about that time, a man named John Foster came to Lee as president from Thomasville Furniture. And I met with John, and John said, I want to work with you. I like working with young designers. And I said, well, look, I will meet you any time of the day, any weekend, Sundays, Saturdays, nighttime. Anytime you want to get together, I'm available. And I just made myself completely available to him. And he started, sure enough, because John was he was a hard worker, and he really liked being in the office. And I would meet him at 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and we'd work for 2 or 3 hours. And I was getting so much FaceTime with this guy, and he took a liking to me and started feeding, assignments to me. And within 2 years, that Lee went from having 8 designers to 2 designers, and that was me and Carol Wheelis, a good friend of mine who's a very successful designer here in town.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now they're 2 designers sharing an $80 million account, and I'm 24 years old, or now at this point 26, and that's pretty heady stuff. So really, John gave me a big opportunity because he liked working with young designers, and I gave myself an opportunity by being willing to get up hungover on a Sunday morning and meet with him at 6 or 7 o'clock, and so forth.
Well, there was a lot of respect built up for that. If you got up that early, he knew what was going on with you at that age.
Yeah.
Well, obviously this is beginning to define your style. I'm not going to say that you had one defined style the rest of your life. That's not, obviously no one has that, but you might be able to maybe speak towards that a little bit, how you defined there, and then kind of how it became more defined in other directions.
Right. So at the time, our firm was pretty much a middle end and lower end design firm. That's where our kind of niche was, and that's my dad gravitated to that niche because that's where the volume was, and we were always a royalty based firm, so volume was very important to us. The one thing that happened for me was designing lower end furniture and doing the Lee Youth Group.
Yeah.
Lee was a youth manufacturer. It was very manufacturing driven. It had to be very efficiently designed. The furniture you designed had to be able to be very efficiently manufactured. And having my background at State and having studied engineering, I was able to use my knowledge of the factory and understanding of processes like that to an advantage.
Dudley, were those the days of the wrap groups?
Oh yeah, they were wrap groups. Yep.
Which I think we need to define that a little bit. That's where they moved down the wall and around a corner in a room.
A youth group would have basically there would be like a single dresser and a corner desk with a chair, and then there would be another dresser with a hutch and another dresser with a hutch, and they were called wrap groups because they wrapped around the wall, and then there'd be a bunk bed associated with it, or if it was a girl, it'd be what we called a teaster bed, a little princess bed, and that was the group. It was boy, they sold.
Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they did. That was tonnages in those days. Yeah. Well, you're eventually going to kind of take over your father's business, but I'm sure in this first section of life, as everyone has, there were successes and failures along the way. Sometimes we learn more from our failures than we do our successes, but you have any stories to tell us about that sort of thing?
I have probably the distinction of having the most colossal failure in the history of the furniture industry, which I'm not proud of, but it's part of my biography. So let me address the successes and failures kind of in a tale of 2 licensed collections.
Okay.
And our firm has done a lot of licensed collections over the years with celebrities and so forth, and with mixed results. But probably the biggest one ever launched by our firm was for one of our clients, and it was, and don't laugh, but you're going to laugh, the Elvis Presley collection. And
you were the one.
I'm the one, yes. And I'll never forget when John Bassett, who was the president of Vaughan Bassett, pitched this idea to me. He said, "Well, are you interested?" I said, "I'll design it if you promise not to tell anybody who did it." And so we designed the Elvis Presley collection. And at that time, he had been dead probably 20 years, and he was literally the biggest brand in pop culture. So John was like, well, our customer is kind of a lower end customer, and they're kind of mom and pop stores, and that's Elvis's people, and so it's a nice fit. And so we designed this stuff, and at market it was a monster success, and everybody bought it. And
so
people that
placed it everywhere.
Placed it everywhere. People and retailers who had never darkened Von Bassett's doors came in and bought it. And I think they sold 3 months of their production right off the bat. I mean, wow. They're 3 factories running on nothing but Elvis. And unfortunately, about a month after it hit the floor, somebody called me up and said, Elvis has left the building. And
exactly. That was, I was actually at that time working for the Lane Company, and I visited a major retailer I will not name up in the upper Midwest, and we just in conversation at lunch, we said, how's that group doing for you? And they said, Elvis has not left the building. So, all right, I will not say any more. I'm sorry.
But I mean, the thing is, it's interesting. So what we learned, what we all learned, and John and Wyatt Bassett in particular learned, is that the Elvis fan is very loyal, and they have enough money to buy T-shirts and caps and coffee mugs and pins, but they don't have $2,000 to buy bedroom suits necessarily. So it was John always called it a wonderful failure because it introduced them to a lot of new customers who they were able to retain, even though the collection didn't succeed. And one thing I really have to point out is a lot of lesser people would have fired the designer after that kind of failure, and that's what I expected to happen to me. And they never blamed me or the firm for the fact that the groups didn't sell. We continue to be their designer today, 20 years later, and so I think there's a lesson there not to always blame the designer when there's a failure.
Baby out with the bathwater,
exactly.
so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. Well, all right. You said tale of 2 collections,
right.
So let's hear the good
Okay,
side.
so the opposite side is we designed a collection for Universal Furniture. The first one was a little less than 10 years ago, and it was the Paula Deen collection.
Oh, yes.
And Paula Deen was a celebrity chef, and I have to say, when we were approached by Universal, who was not a client of ours at the time, about designing this, I thought, oh, good Lord, is this going to be another Elvis? But meanwhile, I was very eager to do work for Universal. Yeah. They were a powerhouse in the industry, and so we took the assignment and did our best. And it launched, unfortunately, right as the bottom fell out of the world economy at the beginning of the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And that recession for our firm being most of our clients, the average client we had's business was off 35% almost immediately. Wow. And we're a royalty-based company, so you can imagine what that meant for us.
Oh, yes.
Not only that, 2 of our largest clients got out of the industry altogether. The Lane Company got out of the case goods business, and Lee closed down their youth business, or Lazy Boy closed down Lee's youth business. So we were looking at a massive reduction in income and having to get rid of really good employees or something to survive this thing. And the Paula Deen collection was a huge success and was successful through the recession, and literally probably is the reason that we're still in business today. And so we were very, very fortunate in that. So that's my tale of 2 collections, a massive disaster and a tremendous success.
And I believe in that second collection, you recently won a Pinnacle Award.
We did. It was the 5th iteration called Bungalow, and we won a Pinnacle for the bedroom collection, bedroom part of that collection. It was the first Pinnacle we've won for the Paula Deen collection, although we've been nominated for others. So that was a nice little icing on the cake after.
Do you have a ballpark figure of how many Pinnacles you all have won?
Not as many as you might think, 6 or 7. I don't know.
It was very good. I mean, it was really good. And you and another firm in Hickory used to be neck and neck on a lot of collections that were major collections, as I recall, over the years. But be that as it may, I want to kind of ask a little bit about Ottawa & Moore design process. How I think we're seeing a little bit of a story of how your style is being defined and redefined and fine-tuned over the years. How does the process work for you all? And this probably is a way of teaching a little bit, a teaching moment for people that may want to come into this business and be a designer and you might help them with a few tidbits of how you guys.
Right. Well, we've over the years have transitioned from a low end, pretty much a low end account to a middle and upper middle and even upper end account. And honestly, I think that happened as much as for any other reason because I wanted to do nicer things. You get tired of drawing little boxes, and our process is very collaborative, probably as collaborative as any firm that I'm aware of in our industry. And we have, let me think, we have 6 designers, full-time designers in auto and more at this point. And in a lot of cases, as you can see from the Pinnacle Awards, we will have 2 or 3 people collaborate on a collection. Mm-hmm. And we like to foster that kind of collaboration because I think it leads to innovation. And what we try not to do, what you can't afford to do if you're a designer, and we can speak to this a little later when we're talking about students, but you don't want to be pigeonholed into one style category because trends come and go and you don't want to be left behind. So by having a number of different designers, I can plug in designers in our firm, some that might be better at one style category than the other, or one better at one price point than another, into certain projects. And so I ended up kind of basically in our firm at this point, I'm really more of a design director than a designer, and I'm able to just manipulate the really talented people we have and try to take advantage of their abilities, and also most importantly put them into situations where they're going to be happy designing. If you have a designer that doesn't like his job, they're not going to do a good job. So we try very hard to pair designers with good matches, and so that's kind of the way things work for us.
So it's relationship building that helps to keep your company prominent in the industry. Of course, you went through the Great Recession, as many did, and we talked about that earlier. You also have to keep up with what's going on and the trends that are out there, and what consumers like and dislike, and what's happening with them, and where things are going in people's homes these days. What are the keys to keeping your company fresh and prominent in this industry regarding designs that you produce?
Well, the first thing is, and you nailed it, you've got to be on trend, and being on trend is there are a lot of ways you can do that. Obviously, with the internet, it's a lot easier than it used to be, and to keep up with what's going on. I think designers need to be looking at all fashion trends. I know we do, not just furniture, but particularly interior design trends. Mm-hmm. We look a lot at restaurants and restaurant design, hotel design, commercial design, fashion, automotive design, anything to kind of stimulate your id and keep you going and keep you fresh, particularly as you get older. Like, obviously I've been in the business 35 years, and, in order to stay relevant, you've got to really stay fresh and stay up on things. And
well, speaking of fresh and up on things, where do you see the trends going in the industry these days?
Well, I just got back from Europe, from Paris, and for Maison Objet, and which tends to be a little bit of a trend predictor for us. And modern is still the king, and I don't see any waning of that as a style category yet. We all know that what goes around comes around, and some variation on traditional may come back, or will swing back around. But at this point, the trend is modern, and trends. The key, if you're a designer, I think of trends as like trying to catch a wave. If you're a surfer, or if you're like me and you couldn't surf if your life depended on it. If you're a body surfer,
right?
So a wave's coming. If you get out in front of that wave, it's going to crash on you, and you're not going to get a ride.
Right.
And if you're behind the wave, you're going to miss it. And you're going to see everybody else headed toward the beach, and you're back there wishing you were on that wave.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is you want to catch that wave.
Yeah.
And what you want to do for your clients is position them to catch that wave at the right time. And that's what we really try hard to do, is stay trend aware and position our clients. And it's different for different clients, because if you're a very high end client, then you've got to be right out in front of that wave, slightly, the first one on.
Right.
Meanwhile, if you're designing lower end furniture, if you're too early on the wave, then their clients, their customers, their retailers aren't going to expect it from them, and they're not going to buy it. So it's all about positioning your client relative to where the trends are going, and that's what we, I think, do a good job of doing.
Well, with that in mind, what's new with Otto and Moore? What do you you don't have to tell me exactly what you're designing, but are you still involved in collections and bedrooms or major collections? Are you working on some things like that?
We are. We always are.
That you can tell me
and,
about. Yeah.
I'm not. I knew you were going to ask me that question. My answer is come see me in April, and I'll tell.
Well, speaking about seeing you in April or any market, let's talk about the grunt work that designers sometimes have to do right there, hours, sometimes minutes before a market rolls and customers start coming in the doors of that showroom. I mean, what's the craziest thing you guys have found yourself doing moments before a market rolls and you're sitting there with your collection in the showroom?
Yeah, we've had several. I mean, back when there was more manufacturing here, we had a situation where a client decided literally 5 days before market that we'd missed out on something. We needed to design a bedroom collection, get it designed. Obviously, we had to do the design work, get the drafting done, which we did through the night, get it to the factory, which we had to drive it there because there was no internet then. And they built samples and had them in their showroom 5 days later in order to catch a trend that their president had decided they were missing out on for that market. Anymore, particularly since all of our clients but Von Bassett are overseas now, we're pretty much overseas. You can't react that quickly, but what we get more into now is things arriving late off the boats. There's always a snafu where some dock workers are on strike or something missed a container and the furniture shows up, it doesn't have any hardware on it, and so it literally the night before market or even the morning of market, in the wee hours, we're boring drawer fronts and hanging hardware, and that happens a lot. So
I want everybody to know that's thinking about they're going to get the corner office with the flagpole view on the first day as a designer wherever they're going to be. Probably not going to happen, but if you're that good, well, good, more power to you.
Right.
I think we're all going to do some grunt work somewhere along the way, and that's wonderful to hear.
Yep.
You all were doing that as well.
Yep,
it's
we
do. Part of the business. Advice to students. It kind of brings me along with what we're talking about with the reality check in this business and going from being a student and the next thing you know you're out there designing or you're working in a product that maybe you never thought you would, as you did early on. You never thought you'd be in the lower end of the thing, but you deal with that and you produce what your client needs that will sell. And what's your advice in general to students or young people that are thinking about going into an education for design and hopefully thinking about this industry as one to come into as a designer?
Well, first of all, I hope young people are thinking about it. I think for the last 10 years, when I was growing up in the South, in North Carolina, the furniture industry was super attractive. And everywhere you went in all these southern towns, High Point, Martinsville, Hickory, Lenore, et cetera, you saw wealthy people that owned furniture companies and designers that did well and drove nice cars. And you thought, boy, I want to get into that. Yeah. And that's the way I felt. And more recently, it's been difficult. That the recession, I think, sucked the lifeblood out of the kind of the stream of students coming into the industry. And I'm hoping that the industry will be attractive enough going forward that talented people, talented young people will come in. In terms of talking to students specifically on a technical standpoint, one of the most important things to learn is proportion and scale. And you're going to get an opportunity sometime to design your first thing, whether that's a collection or whether it's a chair or a bedroom suite or whatever. And that furniture is going to be manufactured in Asia. And so you're going to send your drawings over there and they're going to make the samples. And if it's out of scale, you might not get a chance to correct it. And if it's out of scale, then your client's going to think you don't know what you're doing. So really focus on proportion and scale. If you're out and about in a furniture store or anywhere, or take a look. If you see a table that you like, measure the leg and say, that's a good leg, and it's 1 3/4 thick or whatever. And, just be aware of those kinds of things. Take notes, be a student of the game. And then taking that a step further, to be successful, you have to, in this industry, if you want to be super successful, you really need to live and breathe design, furniture design. It needs to become such a passion that it's not work. because the surest way to succeed is going back to me on Sunday mornings, and that's to outwork your competition. And if you have a little bit of talent, which I have just a little bit of talent, and I'm not being modest, I do. There's so many more talented designers out there than me, but I was willing to work really hard, and also, of course, was very fortunate. I don't want to say I was born on third and thought I hit a triple, but I was very fortunate with my early, with my dad and the mentors I had. So a lot of things broke my way, but really, if you're young and you want to be successful, outwork your competition. Spend time on the weekends, go to furniture stores, go to thrift shops, go all, and really just, at night flip through Pinterest and everything else and live it and breathe it. And you can't not succeed. You will succeed if you take those tenets and move forward with them.
So come to our industry. Be a designer here.
Yes, please. Just wait till I retire.
Dudley, thank you for your time and your advice and your words of wisdom and a little insight into the story of your life and your family's life. And congratulations on your kids deciding to join you in the business, because having met them, I know they're great. First of all, congratulations to you. But moreover, they're good designers, and they are involved, engaged, and energized by this business. And anyone listening, you can too. You can be that way too. Just come over and let us show you.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for being here.
This has been a ton of fun. I appreciate your inviting me, and it was a blast.
Thanks, Dudley.
Yep.
Design Between the Lines is produced by Element Studio with the American Society of Furniture Designers. We're recorded in High Point, North Carolina. To find videos of these podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the American Society of Furniture Designers YouTube channel. To learn more about ASFD, visit asfd.com. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more industry stories of design between the lines.